Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Day Chats. I am your host, Daisy Michelle. And if you saw the title of today's episode, some of you may kind of have an idea about what it's going to be about, and others of you may not understand what it is because it is in Spanish. Today's episode is called Mija, Echate Otro Taquito. And what do I mean by that? It means sweetheart, daughter, darling, eat another taco. And let this be your little trigger warning because we're going to get right into the episode. There's a lot that we're going to discuss today. Let this be your trigger warning. We are going to be talking about body shaming, fat shaming, weight fluctuations, gains, losses, pointing out certain things, talking about experiences, growing up in that. So if that's going to cause a trigger or be a trigger for you, definitely take that into consideration. We're also going to be discussing some eating disorders. So, listen at your own will. I would love to have you listen because it's a shared experience that a lot of us may have grown up in and felt. And I definitely want us to talk about it, but definitely listen at your own will. So let's get right into it. We're not going to waste any time with any updates because we already did a full episode on updates. Anyway, so today's episode, I want to talk about what it's like growing up in a Hispanic household that really has such a shitty mentality and such a shitty way and relationship with food, and how that directly deals with the culture that I grew up in. And for those of you who grew up Mexican, maybe first generation, second generation perhaps, but specifically first generation people, a lot of you can probably resonate with that. So what am I talking about? What am I alluding to? So as some of you may have experienced, or maybe you guys have heard, growing up in a Hispanic, in my case, a Mexican household, you are often criticized about what you are eating. You are often being told you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're not eating enough, you're eating too much, add more to your plate, add less to your plate. Why aren't you eating this? Why aren't you eating that? How disrespectful are you for not eating what your grandma made, for what your aunt made? How rude are you for not eating a second plate? You need to eat this, you need to eat that. And it just goes on and on and on. The list just never stops. It's always a contradicting set of expressions that are being told to us at a young age. So today I wanted to talk about an experience that I've had most recently and something that I've always grown up with, something I've always felt, something I've always experienced, but I never really put it together until now. And I actually recorded myself talking about what I was feeling in that exact moment when it happened. So to give you a little bit of background and to preface what you're about to listen to and to, give you some backstory. As you guys remember, I started a self-love journey starting last year where I really wanted to tackle on some things that I was insecure about myself and tackle on my health and be, the healthiest and happiest version of myself. And although I haven't really talked a lot about it, I've actually been, continuing on this journey little by little, helping out, or not helping out, but healing my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, in whatever stages I possibly can. I mentioned in the last episode that I'm still looking for a therapist. So, my mental health right now, so far it's pretty stable. So I've been okay. I've been coping. I've been managing. I've learned a lot in the past that has allowed me to be able to cope and do well. My emotional health, we're making progress, and this episode is really going to highlight how much progress actually I've made, because this, for me, in the past would have been me just holding it in, not telling anybody, and then just building up all these emotions that one day would erupt into something else. And my physical health, well, let me tell you a little bit about that. In the past 6 months, I have lost almost 30 pounds or so. And genetically, when I gain or lose weight, I tend to gain weight on my lower stomach. That's where you see it the most, my back, and my shoulders, my upper body area. So when I lose weight, that is where I tend to lose weight first. So my back rolls disappear, my stomach and my waist gets significantly smaller than even my lower body. So it's very noticeable, in my opinion, and clearly from others, when I do lose weight. Right, 30 pounds, awesome. I've been doing it in a very healthy manner. I don't restrict what I eat. I eat literally whatever I want in moderation. I'm very conscious and I work really hard to be cognitive of what I'm actually intaking in my body to make sure that I'm giving it the fuel it needs. And I'll go more into that in maybe another episode about how food is fuel and not something to harm your body or to restrict yourself from. But keep that in mind. My belief is that food is fuel. So I'm going to listen to my body and give it whatever it wants in moderation when it wants it. Okay, so keep that in mind. So like I said, in the past 6 months, I've lost about 30 pounds now, and I feel really great about myself. Like I said, it's been slow, but it's been really good. And the relationship I have with my mom is at the point where I felt comfortable telling her I don't want her making any comments about my body. I have noticed that in the past, that has always been really triggering for me. And I never knew that, because when you grow up being overweight or when you grow up being at a certain size and then you gain weight and your family is constantly pointing out and picking at your body what looks good, what doesn't, it only validates whatever insecurities that you have, right? So I did grow up being insecure about my body because it was always something that was pointed out, right? So now that I'm losing weight, a lot of the questions are, oh my gosh, what are you doing? What diet are you on? And things like that. And what are you restricting? And I have always had a difficult relationship with food. I've never been diagnosed or anything, but I struggle with binge eating. That was something that was the most difficult for me. Whenever I would go on a diet, it was the thing that would essentially make it the hardest part, is the nutrition side of it. And that is because I always struggled with binge eating. And so, like I said, I've been on this journey for about 6 months. Truly, I've been on this journey for almost a year. I started with my personal trainer in May of 2021, and now it's about to be May again. So in all reality, I have been on this journey for about a year, and I struggled. It was really hard. The first 5 months was literally up and down, up and down, up and down. And it was not consistent. It was not like it was going up and down, but it was slowly going down. No, it was literally going all the way up to my highest, drop a couple pounds and go even higher, and then drop a little bit and then higher. And I would do the workouts. Working out is the easy part, but like I said, the hardest part was the nutrition. It wasn't until October when I finally had a really good look at myself, and I had already been going to therapy for a while at that point. And I kind of just had this mental switch after learning a lot and looking into what kind of things would work for me and looking into what hasn't worked for me in the past, and just taking a good look at myself and seeing, what do I truly want for myself and how am I feeling and what do I need to do to feel better? And so, as I've stated, food is fuel. Okay. So to me, the way I saw it is that I can eat what I want in moderation. And it's so easy, right? You always hear that, but it's so hard, especially when you struggle with an eating disorder. I'm not saying I have an eating disorder. Binge eating is something that I struggled with, but I definitely don't want to self-diagnose nor say that it's something that I have. But for those of you who may have an eating disorder or struggle with an eating disorder, you know that saying things is a lot easier than actually living by them and doing them. And so to me, it's important to understand that I want to work out because it makes me feel good. I want to eat nutritious foods because it makes me feel good. And I've gotten to a point where if I eat certain foods, I enjoy them, but I also recognize how it makes me feel after. And it's not a feeling that I enjoy. So there are certain things that I don't eat as often anymore, but it's taken a while to get to that point. And I've also gotten to the point where I don't like when people make comments on my body, whether they're compliments, and I say that in quotes, or obviously insults. Who would like that? But I don't like when people make comments about my body. I really don't like when people point out that, hey, you've lost weight. You look great. Hey, what are you doing? You look so good. You see where I'm going with that? It only, to me, and this is just to me, only solidifies that your beauty, so my beauty, is defined by my size. And now that my size is getting smaller, my beauty is increasing, when that's not the case at all. I know and I feel like I'm a very beautiful person. There's so many great attributes to myself outside of my physical looks. And for me, as someone who is trying to heal those parts of my self-image, my self-love, my confidence, I'm still at a fragile point where comments like that are triggering, because it makes me feel like those things that I grew up believing, that you aren't good enough if you are overweight, or if you're gaining weight, you're losing your beauty, or no one's going to love you, or no one's going to care about you or take you serious if you're not a certain size. And so all of that to me is something that's still very fresh, something that I'm working on trying to heal. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because recently I was able to have that conversation with my mom. And, my mom is the only person that I feel somewhat comfortable with her making certain comments. She really refrains from making any negative or even positive comments to me unless I myself bring it up. And one of my aunts brings it up, and I don't have the heart to tell her that I don't like it, but I know she means well. And while she does make some comments, she keeps it pretty neutral. So I'm okay with that. But everyone else, I really don't appreciate when people make comments. I always act like it's okay. I'm always like, oh my God, thank you. Like, oh my God, yeah, great. But internally, like, I'm screaming. Like, it makes me so uncomfortable. I literally don't know what to do. I don't want to tell people. I don't want to make it a big deal. But at the same time, like, I don't like it. I don't like when people make comments about my body. And I knew that when my family from Mexico was going to come visit, that was the very first thing that they were going to point out and that they were going to talk about. And so I went to Tijuana to go pick up my family from Mexico that came into town. And I specifically knew that one of my tias was going to be the first one to bring up the changes in my body and the changes since she last saw me. And I kind of, just braced myself. I told myself that it was going to be okay, and, tried to have that conversation, because she has always, from what now that I know, I can see that she herself has a harmful relationship with food. And it's something that she grew up believing. So now she imposes on herself and others without perhaps noticing. And so I try not to take it too much to heart, but I just knew it was going to come. So I just decided, I need to brace myself. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. That was the very first thing that she said. She said, Mija, te ves muy bien. ¿Qué estás haciendo? ¿Has bajado de peso? And I was like, oh yeah, muchas gracias. Basically, she was like, oh my gosh, you look so good. You've lost some weight. And I was like, yeah, great, whatever. And it actually, the first day that it actually became a big deal was Valentine's Day. And I talk a little bit about it on this voice note that I'm going to have Andrew insert right here, because I want you guys to listen to how I was feeling in the moment. It's very shitty audio. I recorded it on my way to work on Valentine's Day. So you can hear construction in the background. You can hear me driving. Like I said, the audio is not good, but I want you guys to listen, and I want you guys to understand the frustration and how I was trying to cope with the wave of emotions that I was feeling. And we'll go ahead and play that right now.
Hello. Right now, I have a thought in my head, and I'm coming to you from my car. I'm literally driving to work right now, but I did not want to forget the thought or the emotions invoked behind it. So yeah, I hope that by now I would have set up the scene for this. So, okay. So, just in case I didn't, I recently, and not by recently, I've actually been working on this for like quite some time, but I've recently lost about 20 pounds or so. And I've managed to keep it off. You know, at first it was up and down, up and down, up and down, where my weight was fluctuating a lot because everything I lost, I would gain again. And ever since I started to focus on having a healthier relationship with food, and eating more balanced and not restricting myself, I noticed that, you know, the weight is slowly but surely not only coming off, but it's staying off. And genetically, when I lose weight first in my face. My face looks less puffy, less inflamed, and in my back, which by then, you know, I have wider hips, so then it just looks like I have a smaller waist. And so I have family right now that came from Mexico who's visiting, and I had a feeling this was going to happen. So, I tried to brace myself. And for those of you who, grew up in an ethnic household, then you probably know where I'm going with this. So this morning I was getting my stuff ready for work, and I was wearing a peplum top, which I don't care what anybody says about these tops being out of fashion or out of style. They suit my body type very well. And so it's Valentine's Day. I wanted to wear a red one. I felt very confident, I felt really good in my skin. It flattered my body really well. I did my makeup this morning, so I was feeling like that bitch this morning, no one can top me today. I was just feeling really good about myself. And my aunt, she means well, obviously, but she was like, oh, hey, I noticed you lost a lot of weight recently. And I was like, oh, yeah, thank you. And then she's like, oh, you look really good. Like, it looks really nice on you. And automatically, that just threw me off. It honestly, not to throw this word out, but it really did trigger me. And it put me in such a mood. And so then, she went to go get something, and then she came back, and then she's like, so are you on a diet? And I fucking lost it. I mean, in my mind, obviously in front of her, I was calm, collected, acting as if it's just any other conversation. But it brings me back because I have worked so hard in the past 6 months, but I started, going with my personal trainer almost a year ago. In May this year, it's going to be a year that I started going with her. And like I said, the first few months were very inconsistent because I've always had a very unhealthy relationship with food. I've always struggled with binge eating. So, yeah, I can diet. I can, do the whole, calorie counting thing and, restrict. But I'm going to binge. And it sucks. It's such a hard cycle to break. And I finally have gotten to a point that I found something that works for me. And it's not dieting. I had In-N-Out on Saturday. I had food that my family made from Mexico with tortillas. The only thing I'm not eating is cheese, but that's because my body physically cannot process dairy anymore. It hasn't for a long time. So when I had cheese on Saturday, my stomach was all fucked up that night. So I just know that cheese doesn't do well for my body, and I just don't consume dairy anymore. It's not a diet thing. It's just my body doesn't process this thing anymore. And so when they ask me, oh, what diet are you on? Or, what are you doing to lose your weight? It just reinforces, first of all, that, and maybe this is just in my head, but that my beauty is seen through my physical appearance of my weight and not anything else. I get so many compliments, as I'm losing weight. And for anybody who has been heavier and then lost weight, I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who have, been consistently your weight, or you've really been on the relatively thin side, it is so hurtful and triggering when you're working really hard to break these toxic ideas of yourself and your self-worth, when you feel that you're only worthy if you are thin, and where society validates that. And then on top of that, I will acknowledge it. I know how to do my makeup really well. I would say that I am a very attractive person, And so that has gotten me a long way. But the way people treat you when you're thinner is something that I've always noticed, because even within my family, it's something that gets brought up all the time. And it's not just me. If anyone's losing weight, that's like the topic of conversation. And I just want to know, like, at what point do we need to tell our family members that our weight is not a topic of discussion? Like, I really don't care if I've lost 100 pounds. If I'm not bringing it up, it's not your place to bring it up. Like, if you want to tell me that I look good, then you can just say, you look amazing, you look really happy, you look more confident. Not, oh my God, you've lost so much weight, you look so much better, it looks so good on you. Because maybe it's just me, but that to me just shows that, okay, so what the fuck did I look like? Or what did you perceive me as before the weight loss, you know? I mean, and it's only been like 20 pounds, which is actually, that's a lot actually. And like to keep it off is even more amazing. Oh shit, I just noticed I took the wrong turn. It just always puts me in a not a bad mental state, but it just brings me back a couple steps, because I start to feel like all of my hard work is for what? For validation? Is no one going to ask me, how do you feel? No one's going to ask me what my energy levels are like. No one's going to ask me what my skin is looking like. Like, there's so many more factors and so many more benefits about losing weight than just your physical appearance. You know, like, I feel better. I have more energy. I can do a lot more. I don't feel as lethargic, you know? So it's just so infuriating to me, and it's so frustrating when all, in this case, my family wants to talk about is what I'm doing to restrict what I'm eating and what unhealthy habits I'm doing to lose the weight. And what pisses me off even more is that they encourage it. Yeah, fucking starve yourself and only eat a couple calories, count your calories, go on a fucking juice cleanse. Yeah, that's totally fine. It's totally worth it. Like, what kind of disordered, fucked up eating habits are you trying to promote? And it's so hard not to be mad at them, because it's not like they're trying or know better, you know? Like, in our Mexican culture, it is so common for people to make fun of you for being overweight or being too skinny, and at the same time force you to finish your plate and force you to get more food, because you are seen as rude if you're not eating the food that people are making you. And you're seen as disrespectful if you don't finish the food that they served you, because they worked so hard to feed you. And so I just want to know, like, at what point are we going to continue? And really, this is just me venting, because I don't give a fuck what, you know, I want to say my family, but it's not even just specific to my family. It's just specific to our culture. At what point are we going to continue expecting people to starve themselves to lose weight and validate that and praise that, and then go around and give them a completely different message when you're forcing them to eat something, or when they tell you that they don't want to eat something, or it's not within what they're currently eating. You know, if they don't want to eat a bucket full of carnitas and cueritos, you know, because they already ate, or because they're trying not to eat as much greasy food, they'll eat a little bit to have some, to indulge in it, because a little bit is, you know, eating a taco, 2 tacos, 3 tacos isn't going to kill you. But if you don't want to eat a whole fucking bucket of it, you should not be seen, and they shouldn't be talking shit about you for not wanting to eat it. You should be able to eat whatever you want without being criticized, or regardless of what you're eating. If you're eating too much chocolate, if you're eating too much salad, if you're eating too much whatever, you should be able to eat whatever you want without them having an opinion. And now I'm just getting more worked up, because it makes me so upset. Like, it just makes me annoyed, really, if I'm being totally honest. And this is all because my aunt who I'm not even mad at her, like I said, to just ask, to ask me what diet I'm on and, asked if I'm in a diet. And I literally just told her, no, I'm not on a diet. I eat whatever I want. And I have just gotten to that point where I'm learning how to eat whatever I want without binging. And I can eat whatever I want without feeling guilty for eating hot Cheetos if I want to for 3 nights in a row. That doesn't mean I'm going to eat a whole family-sized bag of hot Cheetos, everything in moderation. And that's what I'm learning. And that's what I'm trying so hard to continue. And just comments like that are just so triggering. And call me a fucking snowflake. I don't care. I'm ranting. I'm venting. But this is what you guys signed up for, okay? This is what Day Chats is all about. I'm being honest, and I'm being vulnerable here, and it's just so annoying and infuriating. And like I said, I'm in my car, so you can hear the echoing. You can hear my blinker going off. I try not to have my blinker on as much. But yes, so now we're going to get back into the episode where by that time I would have had more time to think about what I'm feeling and think about like actual rational words and not just throwing F-bombs everywhere. So, it is what it is. So let's get back right into the episode. Also because I just got to work. I'm like almost there, so I got to end this real quick. But yeah, let's get back into the episode. I'm still going to feel like the bad bitch I am on Valentine's Day. And if I don't post this today on Valentine's Day, which I probably will, I'll probably post this on Wednesday. I just want to say happy Valentine's Day to all of you, because I want you to remember that this day is not about just romantic relationships, but it's el día del amor y de la amistad. So the day of friendship and love. Okay? So be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Love yourself. Be your own Valentine. And fuck, if you really want a Valentine, I'll be your fucking Valentine, because I will be there for you. Okay? We're a little family, and I care about you guys, and I will throw hands for you guys. So happy Valentine's Day, okay? We're all each other's Valentines, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to love each other, and we're going to work hard to break these toxic ideologies about what it means to be thin and what it means to be overweight and what it means to lose weight, okay? None of this toxic shit. We're going to work on it. We're going to grow, and it's going to go great. Okay, so now let's really get back into the episode.
Okay, so I know that was a lot. That was a lot of emotions, a lot of F-bombs, but I feel like that is the most authentic way for me to show you how I was feeling in that moment. I was frustrated because I knew how I was feeling. I knew that I don't like those kinds of comments because, again, I am in a, I guess you could say, like a fragile state, where those comments do make an impact in me, whether they're good or bad. They're not motivating like some people think. If anything, it just kind of like I've stated, it just makes me feel like I wasn't worthy. I wasn't beautiful. I wasn't, worth it at my previous size. And my worth is only coming from the size that I am now. And so it was a really frustrating feeling and a frustrating moment because I know that she meant well. And so I didn't want to be upset with her, but at the same time, I couldn't help but how I was feeling. And it just made me realize how much we grow up, especially in minority communities, ethnic communities. We grow up with the understanding that food is a big part of our culture, a big part of how we express love. At least in a Mexican household, in my household, food is how people show each other how much they love each other, how much they care. And food is something that is so gratifying, but also so difficult. And what do I mean by that? Well, I remember always being told and always being, brought up with the fact that if somebody offers you food, you have to eat it. If somebody serves you a plate, you have to finish it. It doesn't matter how full you are. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It doesn't matter if you ate beforehand. None of that matters. What matters is that someone is showing you an act of love, and it is your responsibility to receive that and eat the food that they are giving you. And what's worse, in my opinion, is when people take it so offensively when you decide that you're not going to eat it. I know even now to this day, and honestly, I don't know if my mom jokes or not, but when I don't eat the food that she makes for dinner, when she knows that I meal prep, she still says, oh, me vas a despreciar la comida, no vas a comer, hice más para ti. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to eat it. You saw me meal prep on Sunday. You know I make my own meals. So no, I'm not going to eat it. That doesn't mean I'm trying to be rude or disrespectful. It just means that my meal plan is what is working for me. It's what I want to eat. It's what makes me feel good. And eating something else outside of that, if I already plan to eat something, it just isn't in my plan. You know, like if I want to eat grilled chicken or steak and she made chicharrón con chile, you know, like it doesn't make me rude. It doesn't mean I'm trying to be rude. It just means it's just not something that I want to eat. And for a really long time, that made me feel super guilty. It made me feel like I should eat what I'm eating because, you know, I already spent all this money and I shouldn't be wasting food. But also I should at least try whatever so-and-so made, whether it's my mom or my aunt or someone else. And it's really difficult to get over that feeling that you are responsible for somebody else's interpretation of what it means to be loved. And it's really difficult to break that because to me, if I want someone to know that I love them, I want to make sure that they are receiving the acts of love that I give them. And sometimes they may not want to receive it, and I need to understand that it's not personal, right? And so I feel like that is where is that disconnect in an ethnic minority community and family, is that disconnect where we don't understand that just because someone isn't in a space, in a moment, or in a position where they can accept the love that you're offering, doesn't mean that they don't love you, doesn't mean that they're being rude, and it doesn't mean that they're being disrespectful. It just means that it's just not for them at that time. And so growing up, I haven't gone to Mexico to visit my family in well over a decade, but when I did go, I was about 12, and it was always, oh, here, eat this, eat that, eat this. Here, I brought you food. I made you this, I made you that. And it's their way of showing love. And if you didn't eat the food, I don't know about you guys, my family probably won't say anything to your face, but they are going to talk about you behind your back. They are going to talk about, oh my gosh, she's so rude. Does she think she's too good? She doesn't want to eat my food. I made all this food for her and she's not eating it. And after years of doing that, what do you think that culminates to? If you are being brought up to finish all your food, to eat things that you don't like, perhaps because you don't want to be rude, and to eat and not listen to your hunger cues. If your body is telling you that you're full, but you're being told that you need to finish whatever it is that you're eating, what is that teaching you, right? So that's just leading you up to be in a position where you are going to struggle with your relationship with food. In my case, it was binge eating. And that didn't just come with that. Like binge eating for me was like a result of a lot of the shit that happened when I was growing up and how I coped. The only way that I knew how to cope. But that's a different conversation for another day. But yeah, so I know when we are growing up, we're often being criticized about our sizes, whether we're eating too much or we're eating too little. And so that only starts to impact our self-esteem. That starts to impact how we see ourselves, how we see our relationship with food, how we see how other people's relationship with food is. I still have a hard time understanding how some people can eat whatever they want and not gain or lose weight. I still have a hard time telling myself that it's okay if I have something. It's not going to ruin all of my progress. right? And I still have to remind myself that I'm allowed to treat myself. I am allowed to do things that make me feel good. And maybe that means going out for a walk. Maybe that means, having some extra veggies here and there, because that's going to make me feel good. Having some extra fiber, trying new things that I've never tried before. Maybe I'm going to find things that I'm going to enjoy. I don't know. I want to get into something really quickly that kind of touches on how you are raised and what ideas about eating you are brought up with. I don't know about you guys, but my mom always had some kind of diet going on when I was younger. When I was growing up, she was always either on a juice cleanse or she was like dieting to lose weight and working out and doing all these things and, restricting all the foods because she didn't want to gain weight or because she wanted to lose weight or what have you. And that's how I grew up. And right now, my mom is on a journey. She wants to lose 10 pounds, good for her. And now, like I said, now that I have the knowledge, I'm not saying I know everything, but I definitely have a lot more knowledge than I did beforehand. And now that I see how she's approaching it, it only hurts to know that she also has an unhealthy relationship with food. And again, it goes back to this cycle that we grow up believing that food is just like your enemy, basically. It's your friend and your enemy and your comfort and what destroys you. And it's so wild to me. I ask her, I'm like, oh, what are you going to eat for dinner? And she's like, oh, I'm going to eat some salad with spinach, chicken, and that's it. Oh, I'm going to have a juice cleanse thing for breakfast. And I'm like, what? Like, girl, no, you need to eat more food. Like, where is the protein? Where are the fats? Where are the carbs? And she wants to try like all these diets. I'm like, Mom, like, you don't need that. Like, eat your fats, your proteins, your carbs, eat it. It's fine. Like, and it just makes me sad to think about that is how I grew up. And that is what I grew up seeing. And it's what essentially really shaped my idea about what food is and, how I saw my body and, having your body be a topic of discussion. And it's not just your body, it's everyone's body. Everyone is up for discussion. And when you bring it up to family, like, hey, don't talk about me. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about this person. Like, oh, you're so sensitive. Nobody can tell you anything now. We can't even joke around with you anymore. Like, oh my gosh, it's just a compliment. Just like take it and move on. Like all of a sudden, you're the problem. You are the one with the issue because you are the one getting offended, not them, the one who are offending you. It's just overall such an interesting awful cycle to be a part of and to try to break. And it's so difficult to feel like your body is just always going to be a topic of discussion, regardless of whether or not you consent to it. And it's something that is very difficult to break and very difficult to set boundaries for. And I am someone who struggles to set boundaries for family all the time. I struggle setting boundaries with my parents specifically, and I struggle setting boundaries with my family. And to have to tell people, no, you can't make these comments. No, don't ask me about this. No, don't say this. It makes me feel like I am overly sensitive. And then I literally start to gaslight myself. Like, no, like maybe it's not that bad. I'm just being crazy. I'm just being a snowflake. But I'm not. My feelings are just as valid. My emotions are okay. And my emotions are validated. And my thoughts are validated. And when you're trying to heal these things, there are things that are not good for you. If you're an alcoholic, maybe it's not a good idea to be surrounded by alcohol. If you are a drug addict, maybe it's not a good idea to be surrounded by drugs or have people that constantly want to talk about it or constantly want to talk about how good you look now that you're off of them. It just doesn't help, And that's the part that people don't understand. It just gets me, a little worked up. And it gets me a little emotional to think about, because how many times and how many people, specifically women, I can only speak for myself as a woman. I'd love to have a male's point of view on this, but
What's up, guys? Editor Angela here. I saw that Daisy wanted a male perspective, and luckily, I'm a male. So I thought I could give a few thoughts on my perspective. I'm not going to speak for all males. This is just, I guess, my thoughts. I didn't tell Daisy I was doing this, so hopefully she doesn't murder me. But I just thought while listening to this podcast that my mom and Daisy's mom are very similar in their way and the way they think. My mom has been doing diets for years now. Like, in no way is my mom like overweight. I think, in my opinion, she's in a good shape. Let's put it that way. I don't think she has to diet, but she wants to diet because she sees herself as imperfect, which is fine. It's her decision. She can go on a diet if she wants. The one thing I don't like, though, that she always does is she tries to force her diets onto me. Like, for example, when she did keto, she would be like, Mijo, you got to start eating meat. Stop eating bread. That's the reason you're fat. And she would say it like that, basically. And like, no, it's not. But I don't like being forced into diets because you think I'm imperfect. And like, I'm not opposed to dieting. Like, I'm trying to diet right now, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to eat what I want because it's my body, my decisions. That's probably a popular theme. But my mom has always been that kind of way where like, I literally told her this too, where she sees me as imperfect because I'm overweight, or at least it feels like that to me. I know she cares and she wants me to be healthy so I can live forever. And that's like, I understand that. But the way she does it just makes her kind of sound like a dick. Like, my whole entire life, I've been kind of overweight. I'm not going to say I'm like fat, but I'm definitely overweight. And my mom just always has made comments about my weight. Like, when I walk around with a shirt off around the house doing laundry or something, she'll be like, ay, mijo, qué gordo eres. Hey, son, you're so fat. Like, thanks, mom. Like, I'm more than just fat, by the way. Like, there's so many I don't say better things. There's so many more things about me than just my weight. And like, going what Daisy said about the weight comments, me personally, it doesn't really affect me. It used to affect me a lot more back in my younger days. People call me fat. I was like super self-conscious about it. But as I grew up, I realized that I don't really give a shit what people think about me. So those comments don't really hurt me. I'm not going to say I like them. Like, if someone calls me fat, I'm not going to like beat the shit out of them. Like, I'm not going to be mad at them. But I'll probably think about it. Does that make sense? Like, I'll think about it in the back of my head, but it doesn't really like make me mad. Because I don't really care. Like I said, I don't care what people think about me. I'm happy with how I am and who I am, but I will admit that I do need to lose weight. My doctor told me I need to lose weight, and I'm trying to lose weight, but that's my decision. I wasn't forced into that. And that's like the number one thing anyone should like. It's the number one rule you guys should all have in your head. Never do something because you feel like you're forced to do it. Do it because you want to do it. If you want to lose weight, do it. I'm more power to you. I cheer you on. But don't do it because you feel like you're forced to do it. Like, do whatever you want. This is your life. My mom's kind of similar to Daisy's mom. And like, I guess Latinos in general, I didn't really notice until I listened to this podcast that everyone was like this. But I guess Latinos in general, they're really like, they speak their minds. Let's put it that way. And it might come off as like mean, but I know my mom does it out of place of love. But it definitely is not very nice the way she says it. No one else really talks to me that way, and it kind of makes me mad, but it's fine. It's fine. Family. You can't get mad at family. Yes, you can, but you know, they're family. You'll forgive them. But yeah, to recap, I guess, on my perspective, I don't know if it's the same for all males, but I am happy with who I am. I would say I would like to be fit and in shape one day, but I'm not gonna like cry about it. I'm happy with who I am, and I'm okay with who I am. And while my mom and maybe my other relatives on Latino side just call me fat, it's not gonna put me down. It's not gonna like shut down my happiness for the day or something. Like, I'm gonna move on. And like I said, number one thing, do things because you guys want to, not because you feel forced to. You want to lose weight, do it because you want to. And that's basically all I wanted to say. So I guess we'll go back to Daisy for the rest of the podcast. Thank you guys for listening to my little rant or introduction. I don't know. Anyways, goodbye.
As a woman, how many times do we sit at night thinking, oh, I need to do crunches. I need to do sit-ups. I need to do pull-ups. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to stop eating. Tomorrow I can only eat this. I need to only eat 600 calories, which, first of all, Real quick sidetrack. Let's talk about and quickly mention how the medical field is just as fucked up. They don't listen to your medical pains and issues if you are overweight. They always attribute it to your weight, which I'm not saying it doesn't. A lot of health issues do happen because of being overweight, but not everything. And they just don't listen to you at all. And the most important thing, the thing that I personally have experienced is doctors telling you that you should only be eating like 1,200 calories, 1,000 calories, 800 calories. And I'm like, aren't you like a professional? Like it blows my mind. It blows my mind that they are encouraging these things. And this just goes back again to you're growing up with your family that's telling you, they're not telling you about calories, right? They are forcing you to eat these foods that perhaps you don't want to eat, or forcing you to have these unhealthy relationships with food, or, aiding in the unhealthy relationships that you're ultimately bound to have. And then you go to a doctor and they tell you the same thing. Like, no, if you want to lose weight, you have to eat 800 calories and run every single day for 90 minutes and you're going to lose the weight. I'm sorry. You're telling a 30-year-old that they should only be eating 800 to 1,000 calories a day? That's ridiculous. I am no health professional. I am no nutritionist, but I can guarantee you that 1,200 calories is the minimum that a child should be eating. So that's where I start to struggle. And that's where all of these issues start coming into play, is that not only are we having these negative and toxic and unhealthy relationships being taught to us, shown to us, and bred to us at a young age, we grow up, start to do our own thing, and the medical field, who we think we can rely on, are also doing the same exact thing. So who do we have to trust? Who do we have to guide us? So to conclude this episode and kind of just wrap up our final thoughts, this episode, the whole point of this was to highlight the fact that I promise you, you are not the only one that grows up having unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy relationships with food, unhealthy relationships with your body, unhealthy relationships with your image and confidence due to the contradicting things that your family tells you regarding food, due to the fact that they have you eat because it's disrespectful not to, and then turn around and make fun of you for gaining weight, or turn around and call you too skinny and tell you that you need to gain weight and try to force feed you. There is no winning here. You're too skinny, you're too fat. There's no winning at all. And the whole point of this episode is just to share that conversation, open up the door to talk about this and talk about the feelings that come up with it, because it is hard, especially if you're trying to heal these things. It's hard. And it's like kind of embarrassing. I don't know about you guys, but I would feel shameful talking about this and to someone else. I seem fine right now because I'm not talking to anyone. I'm literally home alone and I'm talking to a camera, to myself. And so I know that people are going to listen to this. And when this episode is posted is when I'm going to start feeling fearful, because I'm being very vulnerable. I'm sharing a lot of things that I would never share with other people because my body is such an insecurity of mine. I don't want people to mention it. I don't want people to talk about it, but here I am talking about it. And I do this because I know I'm not the only one, and I'm so tired of feeling like I am. And I'm so tired of feeling like it's shameful to talk about it. And I'm so tired of feeling like I have to be okay with my family or other people making comments about my body when I'm not okay with it. And like I've been saying, there's a difference between saying, hey, you look really good versus, hey, you lost a lot of weight. You look so great. You're looking better. Like, what are you doing? What are you restricting? And then turning around and saying, oh, you shouldn't be eating that if you want to keep it up. You shouldn't be eating that if you want to keep the weight off. Like, you don't know what I'm doing. You don't know why I do the things that I do. So don't make comments on those things. And that's really the gist and the point of this, is that it's okay for you to set a boundary. It's okay for you to be upset. And it's okay for you to admit to yourself that you don't like it either. It's okay. You don't have to be okay with it, and you don't have to allow it. You can say to someone that you don't appreciate them making those comments, and hopefully they love and respect you enough to respect those boundaries. And if they don't, then you're going to see what's best for you. If they are someone that you see pretty often, perhaps, changing the subject when they bring it up. I'm not going to tell you to cut people off. That's what my therapist has suggested, that I cut people off, but that is something that literally is not a thing in our community and is so difficult to do. And I commend the people that are able to do so, but I'm not going to be one to tell you to do that. That's a decision that you'll make for yourself if you feel it needs to be done. But what I would say to you is, if you're in a position where you're feeling like this, where you're feeling like you're not at a point, or you don't want to be somewhere or with someone that makes those comments about your body constantly as quote compliments, then, it's okay for you to stick up for yourself, and it's okay for you to mention it. And I hope that what this shows you is that it's okay for you to not like it. I'm going to say it again. It's okay for you to not like people making comments about your body, whether they're good or bad, okay? Because your value and your worth does not come from whatever size you are, whether you're big or small, or doesn't matter. You are worthy and you are lovable regardless of your size. And that is the last point of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love to hear your feedback and your stories and how you grew up and what your relationship with food is like, because I know this is a sensitive topic. I know this is something that is very triggering for a lot of people. And I know there are people who constantly restrict certain things because of how we grew up. And add on top of that our society literally fosters this environment as well. So we're getting it at home, we're getting it in society, we're getting it in the medical field, we're getting it on TV, we're getting it everywhere. And so I encourage you to try and reflect on what your ideas of your relationship with food are, and see if there is room for growth, and see what you're going to do about that and how you can get it done. Until next time, you guys, embrace the day.